They excluded me for 9 years, erased my name from every invitation, every holiday gathering, every family photo as if I had never existed. But now I have something they can't control, a house that belongs to me alone. And when I open my doors for my first housewarming party, they show up at my doorstep. Not to congratulate me, but to reclaim the position they themselves threw away. My name is Claire Monroe, and at 36 years old, I'm standing in the living room of my first house truly mine, paid for with money I saved dollar by dollar while my family forgot I existed. The keys feel warm in my palm as I walk through each room for the third time today. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen with granite countertops that catch the afternoon light streaming through windows I chose myself. No one else's opinion mattered when I picked out the sage green paint for the walls or the hardwood floors that creak just slightly under my feet. Every decision was mine alone, and that freedom tastes sweeter than I ever imagined. I run my fingers along the mantelpiece above the fireplace, real brick, not the fake stone veneer my mother always favored. This house sits in a quiet neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, where the mailboxes are painted cheerful colors and neighbors actually wave when they see you. It's nothing like the sterile subdivision where I grew up, where appearances mattered more than genuine warmth. The mortgage papers are spread across my new dining table, a solid oak piece I found at an estate sale. 28 years of payments. But it's mine. The down payment came from 9 years of holidays spent alone, 9 years of not buying Christmas gifts for people who never remembered my birthday, 9 years of cooking dinner for one while they gathered around to tables I was never invited to. I walk to the kitchen and open the refrigerator, still mostly empty except for a bottle of champagne I bought yesterday. The silence in this house is different from the silence in my old apartment. There. The quiet felt hollow, like waiting for a phone that would never ring. Here, it feels purposeful, chosen. Through the kitchen window, I can see my backyard. Small but perfect, with enough space for a patio table and maybe a garden next spring. I picture myself hosting barbecues, inviting people who actually want my company. The thought sends a thrill through me that I haven't felt in years. My phone sits on the counter. Screen dark, no missed calls, no text messages asking where I moved or why I haven't been in touch. They don't even know I bought a house. For 9 years, they've lived their lives as if I were invisible. So why would this be any different? But that's exactly why this house matters so much. It's proof that I don't need their approval or their presence to build something meaningful. Every room in this house is a testament to my independence, to the life I've created without their help or acknowledgement. I pour myself a glass of champagne and toast the empty room. To new beginnings, I say aloud, my voice echoing slightly off the walls. The sound makes me smile. This house will hear my voice, my laughter, my conversations with people who actually care to listen. Tomorrow, I'll start planning my housewarming party. I'll invite my coworkers from Brightwave Media, the neighbors I've already met, college friends who stayed loyal when family didn't, people who see me as worthy of celebration, not as an afterthought to be managed or ignored. For the first time in 9 years, I'm not waiting for an invitation. I'm sending them. I used to be the glue that held our family gatherings together. Every holiday, every birthday, every random Sunday dinner, I was the one making the calls, coordinating schedules, buying groceries, setting tables. My mother Vivian would sit back and accept the praise for our close-knit family while I did all the work behind the scenes. It started so gradually I barely noticed. 10 years ago, I was the golden child, the responsible daughter who could be counted on. I organized Thanksgiving dinners for 20 people, remembered everyone's dietary restrictions, sent birthday cards on time. My father Robert would beam with pride, calling me his little coordinator. My younger brother Mark and sister Elise treated me like their personal assistant, expecting me to handle everything while they showed up empty-handed but photogenic. The first crack appeared during Easter 9 years ago. I had spent 3 days preparing ham glazed with honey and brown sugar, homemade dinner rolls, my grandmother's famous potato salad recipe that took hours to make properly. I set the table with Vivian's good china, arranged fresh flowers, even printed out little place cards with everyone's names. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 30 minutes after everyone was supposed to arrive, my phone rang. Mark's voice was casual, almost bored. "Hey, we decided to go to brunch at that new place downtown instead. Mom thought it would be easier." "But I've been cooking for 3 days," I said, staring at the perfectly set table. "Yeah, well, you can save the leftovers. See you later." The line went dead. I sat in my dining room for an hour, surrounded by enough food for 8 people, waiting for someone to call back and say it was a mistake. Nobody did. That became the pattern. Plans would be made, then changed without consulting me. Family photos would be taken when I wasn't there, then posted on social media with captions about family time. Vivian started hosting gatherings at restaurants, claiming it was less stressful for everyone. But somehow my invitation would get lost in the shuffle. The worst part was how they gaslit me when I confronted them. "You're being too sensitive," Elise would say. "We assumed you were busy with work." Mark would shrug and claim he thought someone else had told me. Vivian perfected the art of looking genuinely confused, as if my absence was a mystery to her too. By the 4th year, I stopped getting invited to anything. Christmas morning became a solo affair while they gathered at Vivian's house, exchanging gifts and taking family photos that would later appear on their Facebook feeds. I'd see these pictures, everyone wearing matching sweaters I didn't even know they had planned, and feel like I was looking at strangers who happened to share my last name. The final breaking point came on Mother's Day 3 years ago. I had bought Vivian a beautiful bouquet of white roses and driven 40 minutes to her house, determined to make one last effort. I rang the doorbell at 11:30 a.m., holding the flowers and a card I'd spent 20 minutes writing. No answer. I could hear voices inside, laughter, the clink of silverware against plates. I rang again, then knocked. Finally, I used my spare key and called out as I entered. The house was empty. But the kitchen counter was covered with dirty dishes, coffee cups still warm, crumbs from what looked like an expensive bakery spread. A restaurant receipt sat near the sink brunch for 5 people at Maven, the upscale place downtown that required reservations weeks in advance. I left the roses on the counter next to that receipt and drove home in complete silence. Later that evening, Vivian texted me, "Thanks for the flowers. Honey, sorry we missed you last-minute plans." Last-minute plans that included everyone but me, last-minute plans that somehow required reservations made weeks earlier. That night, I finally understood the truth I'd been avoiding for years. This wasn't about being forgetful or disorganized. This wasn't about them being too busy to include me. They were actively choosing to exclude me, to create a family narrative that didn't include my presence. The realization didn't break me the way I thought it would. Instead, it crystallized something cold and clear inside my chest. I stopped waiting for invitations that would never come. I stopped buying Christmas gifts for people who forgot my birthday. I stopped being available when they occasionally needed something from their reliable daughter-sister family coordinator. And slowly, without their constant disappointment weighing me down, I discovered something remarkable. I had more money, more time, and more peace than I'd ever had before. The transformation didn't happen overnight. For months after that Mother's Day revelation, I moved through life like someone recovering from surgery, tender, careful, but slowly growing stronger. The hurt was still there, a dull ache that flared up whenever I saw family photos on social media or heard coworkers talking about weekend plans with their relatives. But something else was growing alongside the pain clarity. I stopped making excuses for them. No more telling myself that Vivian was just scattered, or that Mark was too busy with his new promotion to remember his sister existed. No more convincing myself that Elise's silence was just her being young and self-absorbed. They weren't forgetting me, they were choosing to forget me. There's a crucial difference between negligence and intention, and I finally understood which one I was dealing with. The first practical change was financial. For years, I'd been hemorrhaging money trying to maintain my place in a family that didn't want me there. expensive Christmas gifts that went unacknowledged, birthday dinners I paid for at restaurants they chose, gas money spent driving to events I wasn't invited to but showed up to anyway, hoping they'd be happy to see me. When I stopped participating in their version of family, my bank account began to heal. The money I'd been spending on them easily $300 or $400 a month between gifts, meals, and travel started accumulating in my savings account. For the first time in my adult life, I watched my balance grow instead of shrink. At work, people began noticing changes too. My supervisor at Brightwave Media, Janet, commented that I seemed more focused during our quarterly review. "You've been bringing a different energy to the team lately," she said. "More confident, more decisive, whatever you're doing in your personal life. Keep it up." The truth was, I'd stopped spending my mental energy on family drama and redirected it toward my career. Instead of rushing home to return calls that never came or checking my phone constantly for invitations that would never arrive, I stayed late to work on projects that actually mattered. I volunteered for the media campaign that nobody else wanted, threw myself into learning new software, started building relationships with clients who appreciated my dedication. My apartment began to feel different too. Instead of keeping it guest-ready for family members who never visited, I decorated it for myself. I bought books I actually wanted to read, not coffee table volumes chosen to impress people who would never see them. I cooked meals I enjoyed instead of practicing recipes I hoped to serve at gatherings I'd never host. The loneliness was real, especially on holidays. Thanksgiving that year, I volunteered at a local soup kitchen instead of sitting home feeling sorry for myself. Christmas morning, I treated myself to a spa day and expensive takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant. New Year's Eve, I went to a party thrown by my colleague Sarah, where I met people who were genuinely interested in getting to know me. By the second year, something remarkable had happened. I realized I was happier than I'd been in decades. The constant anxiety of wondering whether I'd be included, the exhausting effort of trying to earn love from people who'd already decided I wasn't worth it, the endless cycle of hope and disappointment, all of that was gone. I started setting boundaries in other areas of my life too. When my neighbor asked me to watch her cats for 2 weeks without offering to pay, I said no. When a coworker tried to dump her responsibilities on me because she knew I was reliable, I redirected her to our supervisor instead. The people-pleasing behavior that had made me an easy target for my family's indifference had infected every relationship I had. The money kept accumulating, not just from avoiding family expenses, but from the promotion I earned after that successful media campaign, from the freelance consulting work I took on during weekends that were no longer spent waiting for phone calls that never came. By the 3rd year, I had more in savings than I'd ever imagined possible. That's when I started seriously looking at houses. The real estate agent, a sharp woman named Patricia, asked about my timeline. "Are you planning to get married soon? Expecting your family to expand?" "Just me," I said. "This house is just for me." She smiled with genuine warmth. "Even better. You can choose exactly what you want without having to compromise." That word compromise struck me like lightning. I'd spent so many years compromising, bending myself into shapes that might be more acceptable to people who found me fundamentally unacceptable anyway. The house would be different. Every choice would be mine alone. As I toured properties over the following months, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, excitement about the future. Not the anxious hope of maybe being included, but the solid confidence of building something entirely my own. The irony wasn't lost on me. Their rejection, their careful exclusion, their systematic erasure of me from family life, it had all led to this moment of pure independence. In trying to diminish me, they had inadvertently set me free. I was no longer the woman who begged for scraps of attention from people who saw her as disposable. I was someone who could afford a house, who had earned respect at work, who had learned to enjoy her own company. The hurt was still there, probably always would be, but it had transformed into something else, fuel for a life they could never touch or diminish again. Planning the housewarming party felt like the most empowering thing I'd done in years. I sat at my new dining table with a legal pad, pen poised, ready to create something I'd never had before, a guest list of people who actually wanted to be around me. The first name I wrote down was Sarah from work. She'd been the one to invite me to that New Year's Eve party where I'd finally started remembering what it felt like to laugh without worrying about saying the wrong thing. Next came Janet, my supervisor, who'd become more of a mentor and friend over the past few years. Then David from accounting, who always saved me a seat during company meetings and actually listened when I spoke. I added the Hendersons from next door, Mike and Linda, who'd brought me cookies the day I moved in and genuinely seemed excited to have a new neighbor. Their teenage daughter Emma had even offered to help me set up my internet. Real kindness, no strings attached, no hidden agendas. My college roommate Jessica made the list. We'd reconnected 6 months ago when she reached out on Facebook, and our friendship had picked up like no time had passed. She lived 2 hours away in Cincinnati but had already promised to drive up for any party I threw. "About time you got your own place," she'd said. "I never liked how your family treated you anyway." Then there was my cousin Tommy from my father's side, Robert's brother's son. He'd always been the black sheep of that branch of the family, too artistic and free-spirited for their taste. We'd bonded over being the family disappointments, though his crime was choosing to be a musician while mine was apparently existing inconveniently. Aunt Lydia went on the list too, my mother's sister who'd always been warmer than Vivian, though she'd never directly confronted the family dynamics. She'd started calling me more frequently after my grandmother's funeral 2 years ago, where she'd noticed I sat alone in the back while the rest of the family clustered together in the front pew. Dr. Martinez, my therapist, had encouraged me to think about who truly supported me. The people who deserve space in your new life are the ones who've been consistently present in your old one, she'd said, not the ones who show up when it's convenient. I looked at my list, 8 people. 8 people who knew my phone number and actually used it. 8 people who remembered my birthday without Facebook reminders. 8 people who asked how I was doing and waited for a real answer. Nowhere on that list were the names Vivian, Robert, Mark, or Elise. For a moment, my pen hovered over the paper. The old Claire would have added them automatically, would have convinced herself that this party could be the thing that brought us all back together. The old Claire would have imagined some heartwarming reunion where they'd realize how much they'd missed me and apologize for years of thoughtless exclusion. But the new Claire knew better. The new Claire understood that inviting them would be like voluntarily stepping back into a trap I'd spent years escaping from. They'd find ways to diminish this accomplishment, to make the party about them somehow, to turn my moment of celebration into another opportunity for me to feel small and grateful for whatever scraps of attention they might offer. Instead, I drew a line under the 8 names and started planning the details that would make this party perfect for the people who deserved to be there. The date Saturday, October 14th, starting at 7 p.m. Late enough for people to have easy travel, early enough that it wouldn't feel like an imposition. I wanted this to be comfortable, welcoming, the kind of gathering where people could relax and actually enjoy themselves. Food would be simple but good. I'd order from Romano's, the Italian place downtown that everyone raved about. Wine, beer, soft drinks, and sparkling cider for anyone who didn't drink alcohol. Nothing fancy or pretentious, just quality food that people could eat while they mingled. I'd string lights in the backyard and set up the patio furniture I'd bought last month. The weather forecast looked promising, and there was something magical about an evening party where people could flow between the house and the garden. I wanted to show off every corner of this place I'd worked so hard to afford. Music would be important too. I created a playlist on my phone, upbeat but not overwhelming. Familiar songs that would create a warm atmosphere without drowning out conversation. The kind of music that makes people smile unconsciously and maybe dance a little in the kitchen. As I planned each detail, I felt a satisfaction I'd never experienced before. This wasn't about impressing anyone or meeting someone else's expectations. This was about creating a space where the people I genuinely cared about could see what I'd built for myself. The invitations would go out next week, casual texts and phone calls. Nothing formal. "Hey, I'm finally having a housewarming party at my new place. Can you make it Saturday the 14th around 7? Simple, direct, honest. I already knew what their responses would be. Sarah would immediately ask what she could bring. Jessica would want to know if she could crash on my couch overnight. The Hendersons would offer to help set up. Aunt Lydia would probably cry a little and say how proud she was of me. These were the people who'd been cheering for me all along, even when I couldn't see it clearly. Now they'd have a chance to celebrate in the space I'd created without their family's money, their family's approval, or their family's presence. For the first time in my adult life, I was throwing a party where every single person on the guest list actually wanted to be there. The party was everything I'd hoped it would be and more. By 7:30 p.m., my house was filled with the kind of laughter and conversation I'd dreamed about during all those lonely holidays. The string lights cast a warm glow across the backyard, and people moved easily between the house and patio, wine glasses in hand, faces bright with genuine enjoyment. Sarah had arrived first, as promised, carrying a bottle of champagne and a beautiful succulent in a ceramic pot. "For your new beginning," she'd said, hugging me tightly. Jessica drove up from Cincinnati with her boyfriend Marcus, whom I'd never met but who immediately fit in, helping Mike Henderson set up the outdoor speakers while Linda arranged the food on my dining room table. The Romano's spread looked incredible: penne arrabbiata, chicken marsala, Caesar salad, and fresh bread that filled the house with the most amazing aroma. David from accounting had surprised me by bringing homemade tiramisu, admitting sheepishly that baking was his secret hobby. Even teenage Emma Henderson had contributed, showing up with a playlist she'd created specially for the occasion. Dr. Martinez had been right about choosing the right people. Every conversation flowed naturally. Every laugh felt authentic. Janet regaled us with stories from her early days in media, while Tommy played acoustic guitar in the corner, drawing a small crowd of admirers. People complimented the house genuinely, asking about my renovation plans and decorating choices like they actually cared about the answers. Around 8:45 p.m., I was refilling the wine glasses in the kitchen when Aunt Lydia pulled me aside. Her eyes were slightly teary, the way they got when she was feeling emotional after a glass of wine. "Claire, honey, this is such a beautiful party," she said, squeezing my hand. "Your house is gorgeous, and everyone here clearly adores you, but I have to ask, where's your mother? Your father? I thought surely they'd be here for something this important." The kitchen suddenly felt quieter, even though the party continued around us. I could hear Tommy's guitar drifting in from the living room, Sarah's distinctive laugh carrying from the patio. These were the sounds of my real life, the life I'd built without them. I looked directly at Aunt Lydia, feeling calmer than I'd expected. "I didn't invite them." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "Oh, did you have a fight or something?" "No fight," I said, setting down the wine bottle. "I just didn't invite them. For 9 years, they haven't invited me to anything not Christmas dinner, not Easter brunch, not birthday parties, not family gatherings. They've taken family photos without me, planned vacations without including me, celebrated every major holiday like I don't exist. So when it came time to plan my housewarming party, I thought about who actually deserves to be here, who's been present in my life, who's supported me, who genuinely cares about my happiness." Lydia's face was shifting through several emotions: surprise, confusion, and something that looked like dawning understanding. "I invited the people who've earned their place at my table." I continued. "Everyone in this house tonight has shown up for me consistently, not just when it's convenient or when they need something. They're here because they want to celebrate with me, not because they feel obligated or because it would look bad if they didn't come." The silence stretched between us for a moment. Then Lydia nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. "Honey," she said quietly, "I had no idea it had gotten that bad. I mean, I noticed you weren't at Christmas last year, but Vivian said you were busy with work, and I should have called you directly." "It's okay," I said, and meant it. "You're here now. That's what matters." But even as I said it, I knew the conversation would get back to my mother. Aunt Lydia wasn't malicious, but she was definitely a talker, especially after wine. By tomorrow, the whole family would know that Claire had thrown a party and deliberately excluded them all. The thought should have scared me. The old Claire would have panicked at the idea of their anger, their hurt feelings, their inevitable guilt trips. But standing in my kitchen, surrounded by the warm sounds of people who genuinely wanted to be there, I felt only a strange sense of peace. Let them be angry. Let them feel excluded for once. Let them experience what it's like to see photos of a gathering they weren't invited to realize that life was happening without them, to understand that their presence wasn't automatically assumed or desired. Jessica appeared in the kitchen doorway, her cheeks flushed from wine and laughter. "Claire, you have to come outside. Tommy's playing that song you used to love in college, and we need you to sing harmony like old times." I smiled at Lydia. "Excuse me, my friends are calling." As I walked toward the patio, I heard the opening chords of Landslide floating through the air, the song that had gotten me through my worst heartbreak in college, that Jessica and I used to sing during late-night study sessions, that represented resilience and growth and the courage to change. I stepped outside to find 8 people I genuinely loved looking at me expectantly, waiting for me to add my voice to the music. The string lights twinkled overhead. The October air was crisp but not cold, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. I began to sing, my voice blending with Tommy's guitar and the chorus of friends who had chosen to be here. In that moment, I understood something profound. This was what family was supposed to feel like, not obligation or guilt or careful navigation of other people's moods, but this easy joy, genuine affection, unconditional acceptance. The party continued until nearly midnight, but I knew that by tomorrow morning, everything would change. The confrontation came faster than I'd expected. 3 days after the party, on Tuesday afternoon at 2:15 p.m., I was unpacking the last box in my bedroom when I heard car doors slamming in my driveway. Multiple car doors. My stomach dropped as I looked out the window and saw the familiar vehicles: Vivian's silver BMW, Robert's black pickup truck, Mark's red Honda, and Elise's white Jeep. They'd come as a unified front, like some kind of intervention team. I didn't rush to answer the door when they rang the bell. Let them wait. Let them experience a fraction of the uncertainty I'd felt for years, wondering if I'd be welcomed or turned away. When the ringing became insistent knocking, I finally walked to the front door and opened it slowly. There they stood on my porch, my entire immediate family, arranged like they were posing for a Christmas card. Vivian in front, perfectly made up despite the autumn chill, with Robert flanking her right side. Mark and Elise hung back slightly, looking uncomfortable but determined. "Claire, honey," Vivian began, her voice dripping with the kind of manufactured sweetness she used when she wanted something. "We heard about your little party the other night. We're so excited about your new house, mind, if we come in and take a look around." She was already stepping forward as she spoke, assuming entry like she'd assumed my compliance for decades. But this was my house, my space, my rules. "Actually, I do mind," I said, not moving from the doorway. The words stopped them all in their tracks. Vivian's smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place, though it looked more strained now. "Oh, come on, Claire," Mark said, trying for the casual brotherly tone that used to make me fold immediately. "Don't be silly. We just want to see what you've done with the place. Aunt Lydia said it looked beautiful." "I'm sure she did," I replied evenly. "She was actually invited to see it." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut glass. Robert cleared his throat awkwardly while Elise stared at her shoes. Vivian's composure cracked visibly. "Invited," she repeated, her voice rising slightly. "Claire, we're your family. We don't need invitations to—" "To what?" I interrupted. "To enter my house, to attend my parties, to be part of my life." I stepped onto the porch, forcing them to back up slightly. Because for the past 9 years, I've needed invitations to be part of yours. And funny thing, those invitations never came. That's not fair, Elise protested, speaking for the first time. We've been busy, and you know how crazy everyone's schedules get. Busy, I repeated flatly. Too busy for Christmas dinner, but not too busy to post pictures of Christmas dinner on Facebook. Too busy for my birthday, but not too busy to celebrate each other's birthdays. Too busy to include me, but somehow never too busy to exclude me. Vivian's mask was slipping further. You're being dramatic. Claire, if you felt left out, you should have said something instead of throwing some kind of tantrum. I did say something. I cut her off, my voice staying calm while hers grew shrill. Multiple times. Do you remember Easter 9 years ago? When I called Mark and he told me you'd all decided to go to brunch instead of coming to the dinner I'd spent 3 days preparing? Do you remember Mother's Day when I brought you flowers and you'd already left for your reservation for 5 at Maven? 5 people, Mom, when there are 6 people in this family. Robert shifted uncomfortably. Now, Claire, let's not rehash old what? Old hurts, old rejections, old family gatherings where I was mysteriously the only one who didn't get the memo. I was finding my voice now, years of suppressed anger crystallizing into perfect clarity. Let me ask you something. When was the last time any of you called me just to talk? When was the last time you included me in a family decision? When was the last time you acted like you actually wanted me around instead of just tolerating my presence? The silence stretched uncomfortably. Mark opened his mouth, then closed it again. Elise was still studying her shoes like they contained the secrets of the universe. We're here now, Vivian said finally, but her voice lacked its earlier confidence. We want to be part of your life. Claire, this is a beautiful house, and we're proud of you for— You're not proud of me, I said quietly. You're embarrassed. Aunt Lydia went home and told everyone that I threw a lovely housewarming party and didn't invite my own family. Now the relatives are asking questions, and you need to do damage control. You're not here because you missed me or because you care about my new house. You're here because your family reputation is taking a hit. Vivian's face flushed red. That is not we love you. Claire, you're being unreasonable and hurtful, and I don't know where this attitude is coming from. It's coming from 9 years of being treated like I don't matter, I said, my voice rising to match hers. 9 years of watching you create a perfect family that just happens to not include me. 9 years of being erased from your lives so completely that you don't even remember doing it. I looked at each of them in turn, Mark avoiding eye contact, Elise fidgeting with her purse, Robert looking like he wanted to be anywhere else, and Vivian's face cycling through rage, hurt, and calculation. I bought this house with money I saved by not buying Christmas gifts for people who forgot my birthday. I furnished it during weekends I would have spent going to family gatherings I was never invited to. I filled it with people who actually want to spend time with me, who remember that I exist even when it's not convenient for them. I stepped back toward my front door, my hand on the handle. 9 years ago, you decided I wasn't worth including in your family. Fine, but that means you don't get to include yourselves in mine. Claire, wait! Robert started, but I was already closing the door. Through the window, I watched them stand on my porch for several more minutes, talking in heated whispers before finally returning to their cars. As they drove away, I felt something I'd never experienced before in relation to my family, complete and utter relief. The phone call came exactly 1 week later, while I was having my morning coffee and reading the newspaper at my kitchen table. Vivian's name appeared on my screen, and for a moment I considered letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity won out. Claire, darling, she began, her voice warm and honeyed in a way that immediately put me on guard. I hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about our conversation last week, and I realize we may have gotten off on the wrong foot. I said nothing, waiting for her to reveal what she really wanted. The thing is, your father's birthday is coming up this Sunday, and I'm planning a small dinner party for him. Nothing fancy, just family and a few close friends. I thought it would be the perfect opportunity for us to reconnect, put the past behind us, and move forward as a family. There it was, the trap, baited with the promise of reconciliation and wrapped in the obligation of Robert's birthday. The old Claire would have been so grateful for the olive branch that she'd have overlooked the obvious manipulation. "What time?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. 6 o'clock Sunday evening. Just wear something nice, you know how your father likes it when we all make an effort. Oh, and maybe you could bring that tiramisu from Romano's David mentioned at work that it was delicious. My blood chilled. David from accounting, the sweet man who'd brought homemade tiramisu to my housewarming party. Somehow, Vivian had gotten information about my party through the workplace grapevine. She was letting me know that she'd been investigating, gathering intelligence about who I'd invited and what we'd served. "I'll think about it," I said carefully. "Wonderful, I'll count on seeing you at 6. And Claire, I'm really looking forward to having my daughter back." She hung up before I could respond, leaving me staring at my phone with a mixture of rage and disbelief. The audacity was breathtaking after years of exclusion. She expected me to be grateful for this conditional invitation, this chance to earn my way back into their good graces by bringing expensive dessert and playing the role of the prodigal daughter. But something about the call felt wrong beyond the obvious manipulation. Since when did Vivian plan small dinner parties for Robert's birthday? His celebrations were usually casual affairs, barbecues in the backyard, or dinners at chain restaurants. And why mention what David had said about the tiramisu unless she wanted me to know she'd been asking questions? On Friday, I called David at work during my lunch break. "Hey, Claire, how's the new house treating you?" he asked cheerfully. "Great, thanks. Listen, I have a weird question. Has anyone from my family contacted you recently, asked you about my housewarming party?" There was a pause. "Actually, yeah. Your mom called the main office yesterday, said she was planning a surprise party for you and wanted to know what kind of dessert you'd served at your party so she could order the same thing. She seemed really sweet, so I told her about my tiramisu. Why did I say something wrong?" My heart sank. "No, David, you didn't do anything wrong. Thanks for telling me." After I hung up, I sat in my car in the Brightwave Media parking lot, pieces clicking into place. This wasn't just a dinner party, this was a performance. Vivian was planning something that required an audience, something designed to showcase family unity and put me back in my place as the grateful, subordinate daughter. The more I thought about it, the more obvious it became. A small dinner party that required advanced planning and specific dessert orders. The emphasis on dressing nicely. The timing. Just 2 weeks after my successful housewarming party had embarrassed them in front of the extended family. On Sunday at 5:45 p.m., I drove to my parents' house. Their driveway was packed with cars far more than a small dinner party would require. I recognized vehicles belonging to Aunt Lydia, Uncle Pete, cousins I hadn't seen in years, even some of my parents' neighbors. Through the dining room window, I could see the good china set for at least 15 people. Vivian moved through the rooms like a hostess at a society event, directing traffic and accepting compliments on the elaborate spread. I sat in my car for several minutes, watching the performance unfold. This was never about Robert's birthday or family reconciliation. This was Vivian's countermove to my housewarming party, designed to demonstrate that she was still the matriarch who could command attendance and create the appearance of family harmony. At exactly 6 o'clock, I pulled out my phone and called the house. Through the window, I watched Vivian rush to answer. "Claire, where are you? Darling, everyone's here waiting for you." "I can see that," I said calmly. "Quite a crowd for a small dinner party." Well, you know how these things grow. Family heard about it and wanted to join in celebrating your father. We're all just so excited to have you back in the fold." The phrase, "back in the fold," made my skin crawl, like I was a wayward sheep being herded back to the flock, grateful for the chance to rejoin the group that had cast me out. Here's the thing. Mom, I said, watching her face through the window as her smile began to fade. I know this isn't really about Dad's birthday. I know you called my coworker to ask about my party. I know this whole thing is staged to make it look like we're one big happy family in front of all these relatives. Claire, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm calling you from my car in your driveway. I interrupted. I can see you through the window right now. I can see all the people you invited to witness my supposed return to the family. But here's what I realized: I don't want to be back in your fold. I don't want to pretend that 9 years of exclusion never happened. And I sure as hell don't want to be a prop in whatever performance you've orchestrated tonight. Vivian's face had gone white. Several relatives had noticed her distress and were moving closer, trying to hear her side of the conversation. You want to know where I've been for 9 years, I continued, my voice growing stronger. I've been building a life without you. I've been learning what it feels like to be around people who actually want my company. I've been discovering that family doesn't mean what you taught me. It means... I could see Uncle Pete approaching Vivian, concern written on his face. This was perfect, exactly the audience she'd assembled to witness my gratitude was about to hear the truth instead. Put me on speaker. Mom, let everyone hear this. Put me on speaker. Mom, let everyone hear this. I watched through the window as Vivian's hand trembled slightly. She looked around at the concerned faces gathering near her Uncle Pete, Aunt Lydia, cousins who had driven hours to attend what they thought was a genuine family reconciliation dinner. The weight of their expectant stares forced her hand. You're on speaker, she said, her voice barely audible. Good evening, everyone, I said clearly, knowing my voice was now filling the dining room where they'd all gathered to witness my supposed return. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm not inside celebrating Dad's birthday with you. The truth is, this isn't really about Dad's birthday at all. I could see the confusion spreading across faces in the dining room. Aunt Lydia stepped closer to the phone, her brow furrowed. For 9 years, I haven't been invited to a single family gathering in this house. Not Christmas, not Easter, not birthdays, not casual dinners. For 9 years. I've watched all of you celebrate together through social media posts while I spent holidays alone. When I bought my first house last month and threw a housewarming party, I invited the people who've actually been present in my life, and that list didn't include anyone from this immediate family. The silence through the phone was deafening. I could see Uncle Pete's mouth hanging open, Aunt Lydia covering hers with her hand. Mom called me 1 week ago to invite me to tonight's dinner. Not because she missed me, not because she wanted to repair our relationship, but because she needed to stage a performance. She wanted all of you to see me walking back into the fold, grateful and subordinate, so she could maintain the illusion that we're a loving, unified family. Claire, that's not... Vivian started, but I continued over her. She even called my coworker pretending to plan a surprise party for me, just to gather intelligence about my housewarming. Everything about tonight is calculated to make it look like I'm the problem, like I'm the one who's been difficult and ungrateful, and now I'm finally coming home where I belong. I watched as several relatives began looking at Vivian with new understanding, the pieces clicking into place. Aunt Lydia was shaking her head slowly, her face stricken. But here's what I want everyone to understand. I'm not the one who broke this family. I spent years trying to earn my place at tables where I wasn't wanted, begging for invitations to events I helped plan, showing up with gifts and flowers and hope only to be turned away or forgotten. I finally stopped participating in my own diminishment. My voice was steady now, carrying the weight of years of suppressed truth. The people who deserve to be in my life are the ones who've been consistently present, who remember I exist even when it's not convenient, who invite me because they want my company, not because they need an audience for their performance. Through the window, I could see Robert appearing in the doorway, looking confused and concerned. Mark and Elise flanked him, their faces pale. I have a beautiful house now, filled with genuine laughter and real friendship. I have a chosen family who celebrates my successes and supports me through difficulties. I have a life where I'm valued, not tolerated, Why would I give that up to return to a dynamic where I'm only welcome when it serves someone else's narrative? The relatives in the dining room were no longer looking at the phone. They were looking at Vivian, whose carefully constructed evening was crumbling in real time. So thank you for the invitation, Mom, but I'll pass. Enjoy your performance. I hope it's everything you wanted it to be. I ended the call and sat in my car for another minute, watching through the window as the evening unraveled. Relatives were talking in urgent whispers, some gathering their coats and purses. Aunt Lydia was speaking intensely to Vivian, her gestures sharp with anger. Uncle Pete was shaking his head and heading for the door. Within 20 minutes, the driveway had largely emptied. The elaborate dinner party, designed to showcase family unity, had instead exposed the rot at its foundation. As I drove away, I passed several relatives' cars pulling out ahead of me, their occupants undoubtedly discussing what they'd just witnessed. By the time I reached my house, my phone was buzzing with text messages. Aunt Lydia. Honey, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Uncle Pete. Your mother owes you a massive apology. Cousin Sarah from California. Lydia just called me. I can't believe they treated you like that. But the message that meant the most came from Jessica. Whatever happened tonight, I'm proud of you. Come to Cincinnati next weekend. I'm making your favorite lasagna and we're celebrating you properly. I walked into my house, my sanctuary, my achievement, my proof that I could build something beautiful without their permission or participation. The silence here wasn't the hollow echo of waiting for phone calls that would never come. It was the peaceful quiet of a life lived on my own terms. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in my living room, surrounded by furniture I'd chosen. Walls painted colors I loved, photos of people who genuinely cared about my happiness. Tomorrow, I'd probably hear from flying monkeys trying to guilt me back into compliance. There might be angry voicemails or manipulative text messages. But tonight, I was exactly where I belonged in a space I'd created for myself, free from the exhausting performance of earning love from people who'd already decided I wasn't worth it. For the first time in my adult life, I was completely, authentically, unapologetically free. Thank you so much for listening to this story of Claire's journey from exclusion to empowerment. I'd love to hear from you. Where are you listening to this story right now? Are you at home, commuting, or maybe taking a peaceful walk? Please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on Claire's choices and let me know where this story found you today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this tale of revenge and self-discovery. And share your own thoughts about family dynamics and finding the courage to choose yourself. Your engagement means the world to me.